Why is it called the tritone if there's only 2 notes? And why is it called the devil's interval? Perfect intervals, by their very nature, are stable and don't want to be altered, much like the noble gases in chemistry. If you do happen to alter a perfect interval, it results in dissonance. The most famous of these alterations is known as the tritone. If I have a C natural, a perfect fifth above it would be a G natural. However, what if it's a G flat? Then what? It's not a perfect fifth anymore. We call this a diminished fifth, or a tritone. Another way we can get to it is by going a perfect fourth, so C to F. If we raise F by a half step, it's an F sharp, or an augmented fourth, or tritone. However, the same applies to the other intervals. If I have a minor third and I lower it by a half step, it then becomes a diminished third. If I have a major sixth and raise it by a half step, it becomes an augmented sixth. But why is it called a tritone? This interval evenly splits the octave in half. Within the octave, there are exactly 3 whole steps on either side of the center note. And that's where the name tritone comes from. But I called it the devil's interval. Why? This goes back to the days of Gregorian chant. The overwhelming majority of all music was written for the church in those days and was meant to be beautiful as an act of praise to God. Therefore, certain intervals were given preference, with heavy preference given to the perfect intervals. Well, just as much as the fourth and the fifth are considered perfect, the tritone is considered imperfect. It was considered that there couldn't possibly be a more dissonant or imperfect interval than the tritone. It was therefore labeled the devil's interval and was banned in some cases. Of course, that was then. The tritone has actually become a very important interval in Western music and will even play an important role when we look at chord function later on. We no longer hear the tritone as dissonant as our 14th century counterparts did. Thanks for watching. Leave any questions you have in the comments. Don't forget to follow @1564 Studios on Twitter and subscribe to this channel for more 2-minute music theory.